Welcome to the AI Brief from the YPO Technology Network. I'm Stephen Forte. Approved is doing more work than that word can carry. On today's episode, a research team at the University of Toronto counted every artificial intelligence medical device the American regulator has authorized for use on patients. They found 1,357 of them. Then they went looking for evidence that any of those devices helps a patient live longer or better. They found 3. By the end of this, you will know why that gap exists. You will know why it is not the scandal it sounds like, and you will know why the same structure is sitting inside the AI certificate somebody is going to hand you this quarter. One piece of orientation before the numbers. The FDA is the United States Food and Drug Administration, the American regulator for medicines and medical devices. If you're listening in Frankfurt or Dubai or Sao Paulo, that is not your regulator, and the pathway I am about to describe is not your law. Stay with me anyway. The reason this story travels has almost nothing to do with which agency it happened to. And one distinction, because yesterday's episode sat next door to this one. Yesterday, the question was what a benchmark score actually measured. Today, the question is what a certificate actually certifies. Yesterday was the number. Today is the badge. The study was published last week in an open access medical journal. The device census was taken in December of last year, and the authors printed their method so that anyone can rerun the count. Here's what they found. There are 1,357 AI-based medical devices authorized for use in patient care. 34 of them appear anywhere in a registered clinical trial. 12 have posted results from 1. 12 have a peer-reviewed paper behind them, and 3 have been tested against what the researchers call patient-centered outcomes, whether people died less often, whether they had fewer strokes, whether they stayed out of hospital, whether their lives got measurably better. 3 out of more than 1,300. The author's own summary is the best sentence in the paper. They expected the evidence base to be thin. They did not expect it to be this thin. Now, the obvious reading is that somebody at the regulator was asleep. That is the wrong reading, and getting it right is the whole episode. Here is how most of these devices reach the market. The common route asks the manufacturer to demonstrate substantial equivalence, which means showing that the new device is meaningfully similar to a device that was already authorized. Not better. Not proven. Similar. There is also a vocabulary point worth having, because otherwise a listener with a regulatory affairs team is going to write in. The formal word for most of these is cleared, not approved. Those are 2 different legal standards, and clearance is the lighter of the 2. But nobody outside that world says cleared. The hospital says approved. The sales deck says approved. The board minutes say approved. So the system is answering a question about resemblance, and the buyer is hearing an answer about benefit. That is not fraud. It is a mismatch between what a process certifies and what a word implies. Credit where it is due in 2 directions. The Toronto team published a number that makes their own field look bad in a journal anyone can open with the date of the count printed on it. And that count was only possible because the American regulator publishes what it authorizes. The transparency that produced this embarrassing finding is the same transparency that most AI procurement does not have anywhere in it. Now, here is why I am telling a room full of people who do not buy medical devices about medical devices. You are being handed badges. The one you will see most often is ISO 42001, the international standard for an AI management system, published at the end of 2023. And quietly becoming a default filter in procurement. If a vendor holds it, they lead with it. And unlike the regulator, this one is not national. It is the same document in Frankfurt and Dubai and in Sao Paulo. Read what it actually certifies. It certifies that the organization has a management system for AI, policies, defined roles, a documented way of making decisions and reviewing them. It does not certify that any particular model is safe or accurate or fair. It is not designed to, and it does not claim to. It is the difference between a background check and a reference. One confirms the person is who they say they are. The other tells you whether they were any good. Both are worth having. Only one of them is about performance. SOC2 is the other one, and you will see it from almost anyone selling software. It is an attestation about controls, access, security, availability in the systems around the AI. Genuinely useful document. Says very little about the model. And then there is the part almost nobody checks. Both of these things are scoped. An audit has a boundary, and the certificate proves something about what sits inside that boundary. Think of it the way you think about an insurance policy. The policy is real. The question was always, what is in the schedule? Same structure as the device. Something real was verified. It was not necessarily the thing you thought. Picture Vantage Controls, an 800-person industrial controls manufacturer in Hyderabad. Entirely invented, and you know several. They put an AI visual inspection system on the line last year. Good product, serious vendor, and the vendor holds a certificate. It came up in the second meeting, it was in the pack, and it did what those documents do, which is end a conversation early. I have been in that second meeting. Everybody listening has been in that second meeting. Nobody at Vantage has asked which of the vendor's systems that audit covered. Nobody has asked whether the inspection model was inside the boundary or whether the certificate belongs to the parent company that acquired the product 2 years ago. Their quality director can tell you the false negative rate the vendor quoted. He cannot tell you who measured it. That is not carelessness. That is what a credential is for. A credential exists so that you can stop asking, and that is the entire value proposition. It works beautifully right up until the credential is certifying something adjacent to your question. One more detail, small, and it is the one I cannot stop turning over. There is no official register of ISO 42001 certificates, no central list to check. The counts you see quoted, a few hundred organizations worldwide, climbing fast, are assembled by hand from certification body press releases and company announcements. So the credential becoming the default proof of AI governance cannot itself be verified against a list by the buyer relying on it. Somewhere in that sentence is the entire state of AI assurance in 2026. Here is my read. Every assurance artifact in AI today certifies one of two things. It certifies a resemblance, which is the device pathway, or it certifies a process, which is the badge. Almost none of them certify an outcome. That is not a conspiracy, and it is not incompetence. It is the ordinary lag between a technology arriving and the evidence system catching up. Outcome trials take years and cost real money, and the devices arrive faster than the trials could be run. The standards bodies moved quickly and shipped something genuine because something genuine is what you can ship quickly. Outcome evidence is not. That lag will close, standards will grow teeth, trials will get run, and in 5 years, part of this will read as a period piece. It is not closed yet. And in the meantime, an enormous number of purchasing decisions are being made on a word. I am not going to hand you a task today because the useful thing here is not a task. Every certificate in this story is real. Everyone was issued honestly for work that was genuinely done. The device makers answered the question they were asked. So did the auditors. Everybody in this story did their job. The gap is not between honest and dishonest. It is between the question that was answered and the question you thought you were asking. Approved means it resembles the last one. It has never meant it works. Back at Vantage Controls, the line is running and the inspection system is doing good work. The certificate is still in the pack. Somewhere this morning, another second meeting is ending early on a word. Now you know which question that word answered, and you know which one it did not. That is the YPO Tech Network AI brief for Tuesday, August 25th. I am Stephen Forte. If this was useful, send it to a fellow member. I will be back tomorrow with more. Until then, stay sharp.